Let's talk about how populism has become mainstream, ironically enough, mainstream in American politics. And we're going to start by looking at a clip from this video. It's from Patrick Bet-David's speech at Turning Point USA from back in December. This video was put up on the Valuetainment channel, which, as you can see, has over 5 million subscribers on YouTube. This video is just shy of 500,000 views. And we'll only be looking at a minute of this, so let's check it out.
Human being, period, right? And I'm convinced many of you feel the same way as well. Having said that, let me talk about a couple different things here when I say to you about the enemy. If I were to ask you right now, who do you think is the enemy of the state? Who's the #1 enemy we got in America today? I want you to scream it out.
Yeah, who's the #1 enemy in America?
Tell me who you think it is. Who do you think it is?
Again, this is Turning Point USA. This is a big conservative conference.
Say it.
Who do conservatives think is the enemy at this point in America?
Say it louder. Who do you think it is? All right. Let me give you a few names and tell me if you agree some of these guys are enemies. Would you say mainstream media is one of the enemies?
Yeah, the mainstream media.
Would you say the establishment is one of the enemies?
Yeah, the establishment.
Would you say those on the outside, China, Iran, whatever other countries are, who hate what America stands for, is one of our enemies? Yes or no? Would you
okay, that he's actually pretty close to reality.
Say some of the people on the inside that hate what America stands for? Yes or no? How about our educational system and all those unions? Are they one of our enemies? How many more you want me to go through? I got a list of them if you want me to go.
Oh man, this guy has a whole enemies list.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs.
Through LGBTQ indoctrination. I can talk about Larry Fink, central banks, defense contractors, lobbyists, rhinos.
Rhinos, whatever the fuck that means these days.
I can continue. Hollywood, entertainment, globalism, keep going. With all
entertainment. Meanwhile, this guy's media network's called Valuetainment. But yeah, this guy has a big enemies list. I know what some of you guys might be thinking. You might be thinking, hey, this guy claims to be a free market capitalism guy. What's your beef with this guy? You know, this guy's all about capitalism, apparently. And I'm over here wondering, it's like, okay, well, what's missing from his enemies list? If he's going to throw out broad terms, vague concepts like the mainstream media and the establishment, why not throw out some terms that actually mean something? Like, say, authoritarians or collectivists, concepts that are pretty definable so that you can throw the who's who of collectivist and authoritarian asshats in them, put them in their proper place. I mean, we saw Javier Milei do this recently at the World Economic Forum. You want to talk about someone taking on the establishment? Javier Milei, this dude went straight to Davos and cut a promo on a lot of people that might be considered to be the establishment. And he spoke in clear terms, talked about collectivists and socialists, including variants from the so-called political right. And if you recall the recent video I did where I talk about Javier Milei and Argentina, I talked about how this guy is a shining example of how populism, how there's nothing special about populism. Everyone in Argentina politics, as far as I can tell, likes to think of themselves as a populist, a voice of the forgotten working ordinary man going up against the establishment. And I'm over here thinking, well, if everyone is a populist, then no one is a populist. But most importantly, populism. It's not about ideas. It's not about a coherent agenda or about principles, other than some vague notion of a group, of the forgotten ordinary worker and the common man and the downtrodden, taking on some other vague notion of another group that's considered to be the elites or the establishment. In other words, populism, it's just another variation of mindless tribalism. And now I see it in America all the time, especially going back to the 2008 financial crisis. The political left really started laying into the populism. Occupy Wall Street. Yeah, they're going to go take on Wall Street and the top 1%. and the big banks and the big corporations and the defense contractors and the lobbyists and the establishment, some of whom are the same boogeymen on Patrick Bet-David's enemies list. And ever since around 2016, the political right, the conservatives, have been trying to catch up to the left on their populism game. The left points to the conservatives and says, "No, you guys are the establishment. You want to cut taxes on the wealthy and lift regulations on corporations." And then the conservatives respond and say, "No, you're the establishment. You're controlled by BlackRock and Vanguard and the World Economic Forum and Hollywood and big tech and the mainstream media and the universities." I guess everyone's a populist these days. Populism is mainstream these days in America. That's annoying enough. But then there's the fact that a lot of these populists who claim to be taking on the establishment, to the extent that that term means anything, a lot of these same populists are themselves part of the establishment. This Patrick Bet-David speech, for instance, was at Turning Point USA, which still calls themselves a grassroots organization. Yeah, maybe in like 2014 they were. Turning Point USA is pretty mainstream at this point, I'm sad to say. I mean, I think they're on hundreds, if not thousands, of college campuses across America. I don't know. I've seen mixed reports on what the exact numbers are. Turning Point USA, they have high-profile donors. They have these big, fancy conferences with high-profile speakers, including sitting politicians. Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, he's been on TV and has been a darling of the conservative movement for the better part of a decade at this point. The guy gave a speech at the 2020 Republican National Convention during Donald Trump's re-election efforts, and is also well-connected and friendly with the Trump family. I think Trump has spoken numerous times at Turning Point USA events. And while we're talking about Donald Trump, all of the clapping seals over in MAGA land, they like to think that Donald Trump, their hero, is some voice of the forgotten American worker going to take on the establishment. Yeah, Donald Trump, the billionaire, who got his career started in New York real estate during the 1980s and ever since has been in the public eye, has been schmoozing with celebrities and politicians and other powerful people. And people like Patrick Bet-David want to talk about how the mainstream media is the enemy. As we all know, before Donald Trump decided to run for president for over a decade, he had a show on NBC, of all places. And then Donald Trump, he won the 2016 election and was president for 4 years. And ever since has really taken over one of the two major political parties in the United States. And now he's running for president again and already has the endorsement of many sitting senators and representatives in Congress and governors throughout America. So yeah, Trump is the establishment to the extent that that term is meaningful in any sense. Turning Point USA is the establishment. And to make matters worse, some of Trump's challengers, including people like Ron DeSantis, they're also trying to be populist. For over the last year, I've seen DeSantis and all of his cheerleaders over in DeSantistan trying to play up DeSantis as the real populist, the real warrior against the establishment. You know, always talking about how, yeah, Ron DeSantis, he's really taking on the establishment. He took on Fauci and the CDC and Disney and big tech. Okay. Ron DeSantis, the Ivy League educated governor who's been the governor of the third largest state in America. When he launched his presidential campaign, he did it with one of the richest and most powerful people in the world, Elon Musk. I guess that's anti-establishment. And then we have this Patrick Bet-David guy who's really leaning into the populism with this speech. And you would think he would know better than to engage in this sort of mindless tribalism, considering that him and his family fled from Iran shortly after the Islamic Revolution in Iran. But this guy's talking as if the establishment and the mainstream media and entertainment are his enemies. You know, if those concepts have any meaning, I don't know how this guy does not fit in any of those boxes. You want to talk about valuetainment. It's not just the 5 million subscribers on YouTube. We're talking about a show that routinely gets high-profile guests. And the other day when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, Patrick Bet-David, Valuetainment, is this any less mainstream than, say, Bill Maher at this point? The guy hosts a popular political talk show, routinely gets high-profile guests. Remember, Bill Maher was once the minority owner of the New York Mets. Patrick Bet-David right now is a minority owner of the New York Yankees. Just the other day, they had Glenn Beck on their show, casually talking about how he's been discussing vice president options with Donald Trump during his current campaign. Again, totally not the establishment or the mainstream media, apparently. Then there's the fact that Valuetainment apparently is a company that has enough cheddar to throw around 9-figure contracts at personalities like Tucker Carlson. Here's Patrick Bet-David going on Megyn Kelly's show, another product of the mainstream media, to talk about how his company offered Tucker Carlson, another product of the mainstream media, a $100 million contract to work for Valuetainment. And this does not even mention Patrick Bet-David's other businesses outside of media, which according to this article on the Daily Beast from 2019, has worked with former President George W. Bush and A-list celebrities like NBA superstar Kobe Bryant and Jordan Peterson to promote his company. And yeah, let's tackle this elephant in the room for a second, whether or not Patrick Bet-David's insurance company is some shady multi-level marketing company, as the title of this article, George W. Bush, Kobe Bryant, Jordan Peterson promote shady multi-level marketing company. And even according to this article, to be fair, according to this article, Patrick Bet-David and his associates deny the allegations that his company is a multi-level marketing company or even a pyramid scheme, as I've seen others accuse him of doing. I've watched some YouTube videos on this topic, whether or not his company is a pyramid scheme, including CoffeeZilla, who's a pretty big YouTuber. He also did a 1-hour interview with Patrick Bet-David where he really grilled him on this topic, which I thought was interesting. And if I'm being honest, I'm not sure if I'm ready to go that far. It's a pretty big accusation to hurl around, accusing people of operating a pyramid scheme or some shady, unethical, multi-level marketing company. But some may say it might be fun to speculate about. Did Patrick Bet-David get rich off of a pyramid scheme or some shady, multi-level marketing company? And yes, this dude is loaded, by the way. He even put up a video on his own YouTube channel to showcase his $25 million house in Florida, including some of his fancy toys in this video. Again, totally not the establishment. But did this guy buy his house with money made from a pyramid scheme or some shady multi-level marketing tactics? I don't know. Again, that's a pretty big accusation to hurl around, but it might be worth speculating that this might be the case, as Patrick Bet-David himself likes to do when he puts out analyses like this, where he gets into half-baked ideas about why companies like Farmers Insurance are really pulling out of Florida.
And by the way, guess who's on that list? UN influence. Bingo. When you look at this, Farmers Insurance. Who knows? Maybe farmers left because they're being pressured by UN, ESG, DEI. Who knows? But there's some,
who knows?
Some influence there when a state like Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis says, I don't support you bullying your ESG policies in my state with UN, and he makes all that noise. There's a lot of quiet people that nobody knows their names or their faces behind closed doors going to work to say, I don't like this guy. We have to make their life hard. Guess
oh no.
What? Let's expose them. Let's write a bunch of things about the state of Florida.
Yeah, a lot of shady things going on behind the scenes.
Florida, and hurt his reputation when he's running for president. Is that true? Is it not happening? I don't know. But it's worth speculating that there's a possibility of that happening.
Yeah, is it true? I don't know. But it's worth speculating that there's a possibility that that may have happened. On a side note, I don't want to get off too much on a tangent on this topic about why insurance companies are pulling out of Florida. Maybe it's true. Maybe there's a fire to the smoke. I'm a little bit skeptical considering that insurance companies like Farmers have been pulling out of California or just stopped issuing new insurance policies on homes in California, which is a state that's not exactly known for being hostile to ESG or other left-wing causes. And as my viewers know, I'm no fan of ESG, much less organizations like the United Nations. So I'm a little bit skeptical, but maybe it's a big coincidence. Maybe Patrick Bet-David isn't wrong to be a little bit suspicious here. So I'll let him have fun with these speculations. It might be worth speculating about. So why not speculate about whether or not Patrick Bet-David's business is a pyramid scheme or some shady, unethical, multi-level marketing company, and that's how he made a lot of his money. Wouldn't there be multi-levels of irony to this? This guy who's getting filthy rich by roping suckers into his scheme, many of whom are presumably just average Joes, average working people looking for an opportunity, as Patrick Bet-David then goes around and schmoozes with former presidents and A-list celebrities to promote his business. And then he builds a media brand where then he goes around and tries to find other businesses and elites to point his finger at. And then goes to conferences at Turning Point USA to talk about how the establishment is the problem. But maybe Patrick Bet-David's gains were not ill-gotten. In which case, good for him. I like that in America, despite many of America's problems, it's still a country where an immigrant can come and still get filthy rich like this. Either way, even if Patrick Bet-David's business is on the up and up, which maybe it is, again, I don't know, and even if his gains were not ill-gotten, he still built his business by schmoozing with former presidents and A-list celebrities. This article even mentions towards the end about how one of his first celebrities, one of his first high-profile people to endorse his company was Glenn Beck when he was still working at Fox News, i.e. the mainstream media. And also A-list celebrities like comedian Kevin Hart and hockey superstar Wayne Gretzky. And not to focus entirely on the populist right, you see a lot of this stuff happen on the populist left as well, especially with these champagne socialist types who like to present themselves as a voice for the poor and the downtrodden and the forgotten American worker as they go around and talk about the horrors and evils of capitalism and wealth inequality and income inequality, while they make millions of dollars on streaming services provided by supposed big scary tech monopolies like Amazon and Google, and doing shows with sitting members of Congress and rubbing elbows with celebrities and driving around in six-figure cars and living in seven-figure houses in big cities. Anyway, this is populism in modern American politics. Rich, famous, influential, politically connected dorks masquerading as representatives and voices for the forgotten ordinary workers, taking on the establishment that they themselves are part of.